Did you know that in the shadowed corners of ancient Sumer, a terror stalked the land, a creature of darkness and despair, draped in the chilling cloak of motherhood's violation? Her name was Lamastu, and her story is a chilling testament to the primal fears that haunt the human heart. Lamastu wasn't born of blood and bone, but of the festering wounds of a world grappling with the unknown. She wasn't a simple monster, but a manifestation of fear itself, a reflection of the anxieties that consumed the Sumerians as they stared into the abyss of the night. She was the embodiment of the void that separated the fertile earth from the terrifying stars, the capricious nature of life and death, the sudden, inexplicable loss of a child. These were the fertile grounds from which her shadowy form bloomed. The whispers began in the dimly lit huts of the villages, tales passed from mother to daughter, each one adding a layer of dread to the image of this monstrous female. They spoke of a woman with a hideous face, adorned with a venomous smile, eyes that burned with infernal fire, and claws like shards of obsidian. Her body, a grotesque tapestry of writhing limbs and serpentine tails, seemed to mock the delicate beauty of human form. She was a grotesque parody of the nurturing mother figure, a grotesque embodiment of primal fears. Lamastu wasn't a creature of the wilds. She lurked in the shadows of the home, within the sacred spaces meant to provide solace and security. She preyed not on the vulnerable or the weak, but on the most precious, mothers and their children. Her insidious approach was more terrifying than any brute force. She appeared in dreams, whispering seductive promises in the ear of weary mothers, lulling them into a false sense of security. She would infiltrate the house, draped in the guise of a beautiful woman, her deceptive beauty concealing her true monstrous form. A young mother, Alara, lay nestled in the soft embrace of her child, Ishtar, his tiny hand clasped in hers. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues. Suddenly, the comforting warmth of the home was replaced by an eerie coldness, a sense of impending doom. A chilling voice, soft and alluring, whispered in Alara's ear, "The child will be better off with me. I will give him a paradise." And, so blinded by the promise of salvation, Alara drifted off, her sleep a slow descent into the unknown. As dawn broke, Alara awoke to an unbearable emptiness. Ishtar, her beloved son, was gone. The house, once filled with the joyous sounds of a mother and child, echoed with an unnerving silence. Horrified, Alara searched high and low, her heart pounding like a war drum. Yet, she found nothing but the cold, hard reality of her child's absence. The chilling knowledge that Lamastu had claimed him, snatched him away into the darkness, gnawed at her soul. She knew, with absolute certainty, that she would never again feel the warmth of her son's embrace. Tales of Lamastu multiplied, spreading like wildfire through the ancient Mesopotamian cities. Mothers would huddle together, sharing their fears, their stories becoming interwoven with the fabric of the collective consciousness. The very act of childbirth became a terrifying ordeal, each cry of a newborn a potential summons for the creature. Babies were wrapped in layers of protective charms, their cradles guarded by watchful eyes. Yet, Lamastu wasn't just a harbinger of death. She was also a symbol of the anxieties that surrounded the concept of motherhood. The fear of losing a child, the burden of responsibility, the constant struggle to provide. All these anxieties found expression in her terrifying form. The Sumerians, in their wisdom, devised rituals to appease and ward off Lamastu. Incense filled the air, prayers were whispered, and sacrifices were made. They built shrines dedicated to protective deities, invoking their power to banish the demon. They carved talismans, imbued with potent symbols, and placed them on doorways and cradles. But the fear of Lamastu remained a constant shadow, a potent reminder of the fragility of life and the unknown dangers that lurked in the dark. The stories told about Lamastu are not simply cautionary tales. They are a reflection of the human condition. They are a testament to the enduring power of fear and the relentless pursuit of understanding the unknown. They serve as a reminder that the monsters we fear are often projections of our own deepest anxieties, the very fears that resonate within our souls. And Lamastu, in all her terrifying majesty, remains a chilling echo of those anxieties, forever etched into the annals of Sumerian mythology. The whispers continued for generations, carried on the wind, weaving their way through the ages. But even as time passed, the fear of Lamastu lingered, a haunting echo in the chambers of the human heart. For in the shadowed corners of our minds, the fear of loss, the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing those we love, those fears that are ancient as humanity itself, still reside. And in those fears, in the darkest recesses of our subconscious, the shadowy figure of Lamastu persists. Always. Did you know that in the ancient lands of Sumer, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers snaked through fertile plains, a terror roamed the earth, a monstrous demon known as Asag? Not a creature of myth alone, but a tangible embodiment of chaos. Asag's very presence warped the very fabric of reality, twisting the fertile fields into desolate wastelands and plunging the land into unending night. His reign of terror, whispered in hushed tones from generation to generation, was a chilling reminder of the raw power that lay dormant in the universe, waiting to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting. Asag was no ordinary demon. Born from the primordial mists, he was a being of immense size, his form a grotesque amalgamation of monstrous beasts. His skin, the color of a stormy sky before a deluge, was etched with patterns of jagged lightning. Sharp, razor-like claws, tipped with obsidian, protruded from his elongated fingers and toes, and his eyes, burning with a cold, internal fire, could pierce through the deepest shadows. He breathed forth noxious fumes that withered vegetation and poisoned the air, his very breath a potent weapon of mass destruction. The very air around him crackled with unseen energy, a palpable aura of dread that seeped into the hearts of even the bravest warriors. Tales spoke of villages swallowed whole by Asag's gaping maw, their inhabitants reduced to nothing more than dust motes swirling in the infernal winds that followed in his wake. The very stars seemed to dim their light in fear of his presence. He was the embodiment of utter destruction, a malevolent force that tore at the very threads of creation. For centuries, the people of Sumer, their hearts filled with a profound fear, endured Asag's reign of terror. The gods, observing the desolation wrought by this vile creature, grew increasingly concerned. They knew that if Asag remained unchecked, all of creation would eventually crumble under the weight of his wrath. The fate of the land, the very essence of Sumer itself, hung precariously in the balance. Among the gods, Ninurta, the mighty god of war, hunting, and storms, stood as the last bastion of hope. He, a warrior forged in the fires of divine creation, possessed the strength and courage necessary to confront this monstrous entity. But Asag was no ordinary foe. His power was immense, his resolve unyielding. He had learned to tap into the raw energy of chaos, drawing power from the void itself, making him practically immune to traditional weapons and divine spells. Word of Asag's atrocities reached Ninurta, and he, with a determination forged in the crucible of the heavens, prepared himself for the arduous task ahead. He knew that facing Asag would require more than brute force. It would demand cunning, strategy, and a deep understanding of the very forces that govern the universe. His journey to confront Asag took him across desolate plains and treacherous mountains. The very air crackled with anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for the impending clash. He rallied the lesser deities, urging them to aid in the fight against the encroaching darkness. He consulted the ancient texts, deciphering forgotten prophecies, seeking wisdom from the whispers of the ages. He learned that Asag could only be defeated by exploiting his weakness, a hidden vulnerability buried deep within the chaotic heart of the demon. This, according to the prophecies, was a profound insight into the nature of chaos itself, a delicate balance between order and disorder. To conquer Asag, one must not only combat the chaos, but also understand its roots, and that is a truly daunting challenge. Ninurta sought out the ancient artifact, the Shard of Equilibrium, a mystical object imbued with the power to unravel the very threads of reality. It was said to hold the key to Asag's defeat, a hidden truth within the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. But the shard was guarded by a formidable fortress, shielded by arcane enchantments, a labyrinth of impossible challenges. For days, Ninurta navigated the intricate mazes of the fortress, his resolve tested to the limit. He faced trials of unimaginable difficulty, overcoming colossal beasts and deciphering riddles crafted by the gods themselves. He understood that the path to defeating Asag was not just about strength, but about wisdom, understanding, and the courage to confront the unknown. Finally, after a grueling battle that shook the foundations of the cosmos, Ninurta obtained the shard. With the artifact in his possession, he confronted Asag in a desolate valley, the very landscape itself trembling with the weight of their impending conflict. The battle raged for eons, the clash of divine powers echoing across the cosmos. Ninurta, wielding the shard, fought with a ferocity born of his divine duty. He understood that Asag's power stemmed from chaos, and he countered it with the precise application of order. He struck at the demon's vulnerabilities, exploiting the weaknesses in his own unpredictable nature. Finally, with a surge of divine power, Ninurta plunged the shard into the heart of Asag. The monstrous demon shrieked, a sound that shattered the very fabric of existence. The earth trembled, the heavens roared, and the universe held its breath. Asag, the embodiment of chaos, crumbled into dust, his reign of terror brought to an abrupt and final end. The valley, once a wasteland, bloomed into a paradise. The sun shone brightly once more, chasing away the eternal night. The people of Sumer rejoiced, their hearts filled with gratitude for the divine warrior who had saved them from the brink of oblivion. Ninurta, the hero of 1,000 battles, had proven that even the most formidable foes could be overcome with courage, wisdom, and a profound understanding of the universe. And so, the legend of Asag, the monstrous demon, became a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked chaos, and a testament to the enduring power of courage and the will to fight. Did you know that in the shadowed recesses of Sumerian myth, a god of whispers and unseen terrors lurked, a deity so obscure that even the grand hymns to Anunna and Enki barely mention his name? He was Latarak, a minor god associated with the underworld, the very essence of the forgotten and the feared. His story, woven from the threads of secrets and the chilling echoes of the dead, is a tale whispered only in the darkest corners of the ziggurats, where the moonbeams painted spectral patterns on the cracked clay. Latarak wasn't born of the light. He wasn't forged in the fiery heart of creation. Instead, he arose from the miasma of the primordial abyss, a child of the void, a being who tasted the dust of ages before the gods themselves were formed. His form was not of flesh and bone, but of shifting shadows, a constant murmur of unease that clung to the very air. He was the embodiment of the unknown, the fear that gnawed at the edges of consciousness, the unseen presence that stalked the weary souls journeying to the netherworld. The Sumerians, deeply rooted in the cyclical nature of life and death, understood the inevitability of the underworld. But they feared Latarak more than the mere act of passing into the shadowy realm. They feared the whispers that trailed behind him, the chilling chill that settled upon the land when his spectral form drifted through the night. He was the keeper of the forgotten, the collector of the lost, the orchestrator of the unseen pains that haunted the living. His power wasn't displayed in thunderous pronouncements or dazzling displays of strength. It was insidious, a creeping dread that infiltrated the very fabric of existence. He could twist dreams into nightmares, whispering doubts into the hearts of the valiant, and plant seeds of paranoia in the fertile ground of the human mind. His presence was felt not in blazing glory, but in the hollow silence between the words, the sudden stillness in the midst of a roaring tempest, the creeping dread that took root in the quiet of the night. The annals of Sumerian lore tell of a time when a great plague swept across the land, its tendrils reaching into every home and desecrating every hearth. The healers, seasoned in the arts of herbal medicine and divine incantations, were powerless against its relentless march. The sick lay groaning on their beds, their eyes wide with a terror beyond mortal comprehension. The air itself seemed to grow heavier, and the once vibrant green fields wilted under an unnatural pallor. The high priest, a weathered man with eyes that had seen centuries of hardship, consulted the tablets etched with the secrets of the gods. He discovered a cryptic prophecy, a whisper from the depths of the underworld, mentioning Latarak and his insidious touch. The prophecy warned that the plague was not of natural origin, but a curse, a manifestation of Latarak's displeasure. He was angered, they said, by the living's disregard for the dead. Realizing the horrifying truth, the priest organized a grand procession, a journey into the heart of the underworld, a pilgrimage to appease the enigmatic god. They carried offerings not of gold and precious stones, but of mournful songs and poignant prayers. They chanted ancient incantations, invoking the spirits of the departed, imploring them to intercede on their behalf. The journey was perilous, each step fraught with dread. The shadows deepened, the air grew colder, and the whispers of Latarak grew louder, slithering through the sacred procession like venomous snakes. The living mourned, the dead sobbed, but they pressed on, driven by the desperate hope of survival. Finally, they reached the gates of the netherworld, a shimmering expanse of obsidian and smoke. They faced the spectral gaze of Latarak, a being of swirling mist and fractured shadows. His form shimmered with a chilling energy. The priest, his voice trembling, spoke of the reverence due to the departed, the necessity of respecting the balance between life and death. He spoke of the living's duty to remember those who had passed on, to honor their memories. Latarak listened, his spectral form wavering slightly. Perhaps, in his hidden heart of dread, he felt a flicker of understanding. The mournful songs and prayers resonated, and the terrible silence that had descended upon the world was broken, replaced by an eerie whisper of calm. The plague subsided. The world revived, but a palpable fear of Latarak remained. He was a reminder of the unseen forces that governed the world, the chilling truths of life and death, of sorrow and remembrance. His name became a whispered prayer, a shudder in the wind, a cautionary tale, a grim reminder that even in the light of day, the shadows of the underworld held an unimaginable terror. And though Latarak remained hidden in the darkness, his whispers echoed in the history of Sumer, a testament to the ever-present power of the forgotten and feared. Did you know that Ninazu, the enigmatic god of the underworld and healing, wasn't always the benevolent figure we picture today? His story, shrouded in the mists of Sumerian myth, is a tapestry woven with threads of dark magic, horrifying sacrifices, and the surprising power of compassion. The tale begins not in the echoing halls of the underworld, but in the sun-drenched plains of Sumer. Ninazu, born of the primal chaos, was not a god from the start. He was a mortal man, gifted with an unnatural understanding of the secrets hidden beneath the earth. He saw the flickering lights of the otherworld, felt the subtle tremors that heralded the passing of souls. His knowledge, though invaluable, was terrifying. He could speak with the dead, and in his insatiable curiosity, he sought to learn their whispered secrets. He learned of the terrifying abyss beneath the world, a realm governed by the formidable Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld. He learned of the endless suffering of the damned, the chilling whispers of the lost. He discovered the rituals, the arcane incantations, and the terrible sacrifices that appeased Ereshkigal and kept the balance of life and death in precarious equilibrium. These insights, so brutally honest, plunged Ninazu into a darkness that consumed him. His eyes, once bright with the fire of life, were now shadowed with the dread of the afterlife. Haunted by the visions of the dead, tormented by the knowledge of the abyss, Ninazu began to wield the dark arts. His obsession with the underworld transcended the boundaries of mortal longing. He discovered the potent magic embedded in the very soil, the eerie rhythms of the earth itself. He learned to summon the shadows, to weave spells that bound souls to the earth, and to command the echoes of the forgotten. His power, though raw and unchecked, was immense, a force of nature unbound, yet tinged with the cruelty of his newfound knowledge. Word of Ninazu's terrifying abilities spread through the land. The kings trembled, their priests offered fearful sacrifices, their people prayed to escape Ninazu's wrath. They saw in him not a god of healing, but a demon of the dead, a harbinger of doom. His touch, once a source of life, was now feared as a catalyst of despair. But in the depths of his despair, a flicker of something else ignited within Ninazu. It wasn't a divine spark, but a flicker of empathy, a shard of compassion amidst the crushing weight of his knowledge. One day, he saw a young woman, lying prostrate, her body ravaged by a cruel illness. The villagers, their faces etched with fear, had given up hope. He saw her not as a diseased subject, but as a soul in pain, and this resonated deep within his tormented heart. Driven by this strange impulse, Ninazu, the master of the underworld, the wielder of dark magic, did something unthinkable. He delved into the forbidden lore, seeking a cure. He tapped into the very rhythms of the underworld, channeling not its terror, but its inherent healing properties. He used the powers of the dead, not to torment, but to mend. He drew upon the raw energy of the earth, and from the darkness, he conjured a potent remedy, a shimmering essence that pulsed with life. He held the potion in his hands, the darkness and light seemingly battling for supremacy within his essence. He administered it to the young woman, and watched, transfixed, as her breath returned, her fever subsided, and her spirit surged with life once more. The villagers, witnessing the miracle, fell to their knees in awe. Ninazu, the feared Dark One, had become a healer. This act, though born from compassion, became a dangerous secret. The other gods, their understanding of the underworld still limited to fears and superstitions, viewed Ninazu's act as sacrilege. They saw a corruption of the natural order. They saw a man who dared to play God, to tamper with the laws of existence. Yet, Ninazu, humbled by his discovery, continued his work. He healed the afflicted, comforted the dying, and brought solace to the bereaved. His compassion, paradoxically, grew alongside his knowledge of the dark, his healing touch becoming a beacon of hope in a world drowning in despair. He learned to harness the energies of the underworld, not as a source of torment, but as a reservoir of healing, of life itself. He became a bridge between worlds, a conduit for both the living and the dead. His tale, passed down through generations, became a paradoxical legend. He was Ninazu, the terrifying master of the underworld, yet also the compassionate god of healing. The duality within him, a reflection of the paradoxical nature of life and death, of suffering and salvation, was woven into the very fabric of Sumerian cosmology. The whispers of his deeds echoed across the millennia, a testament to a god who sought not dominion, but equilibrium. And in the heart of the mortal world, Ninazu, the master of shadows, continued to heal, his healing power, a monument to the surprising power of compassion amidst the horrors of the underworld. Did you know that before the mountains rose, before the rivers flowed, before the sun dared to peek over the horizon, there was only the primordial abyss, a vast, churning sea of salt, shimmering with phosphorescent algae, and echoing with the whispers of creation yet unborn. This was the realm of Tiamat, the primordial goddess, mistress of the salt-laced waters, a being of unimaginable power and terrifying beauty. Her eyes, the color of swirling storm clouds, held the secrets of the cosmos, and her breath could raise mountains or shatter them with a single sigh. She existed before time itself, a being sculpted from the raw essence of chaos. She was not benevolent, not malevolent, simply is. Her very form was a testament to the untamed fury of the universe, a symphony of scales, swirling tentacles, and glistening, razor-sharp claws. Her scales, shimmering with iridescent colors, caught the light of the endless night, reflecting the swirling chaos beneath her. Her form, a living embodiment of the primordial sea, pulsed with a raw, untamed energy that made even the most seasoned gods tremble. Around her, countless entities writhed and pulsed. Not gods, not monsters, but nascent beings, formed from the same primordial soup, reaching out towards the light, groping for form, for purpose. Some were born to serve, some to challenge, some simply to fade into the dark abyss from whence they came. They were her children, her creations, her sustenance, and her constant companions in this endless, timeless dance. Tiamat, however, remained detached, observing, absorbing, waiting. The whispers of the nascent cosmos reached her, murmurs of a nascent order. A flicker of something like consciousness touched her. She saw the potential within the chaos, the possibility of creation, of destruction, of everything. The thought alone filled her being, a surge of raw, uncontrolled power. She felt the urge to shape, to sculpt, to mold the chaos into something tangible. And so, she began to build, not with the slow, deliberate hands of a god of creation, but with the vast, impulsive movements of the primordial sea itself. She created mountains from her sighs, valleys from her tears, rivers from her sweat. From the foam of her waves, she birthed the first life forms, simple creatures born of the sea, each one a testament to her immense power. Some thrived, some perished, some evolved, and still, she remained, ever present, ever watching, a guardian of the boundless abyss, a silent architect of the nascent world. Centuries bled into millennia. The world grew, blossomed, and changed. New beings arose, some with divine power, others with earthly strength, some with the terrifying grace of monsters. But Tiamat remained aloof, a silent observer. She held the world in her grip, a cosmic, watery hand, and watched as countless cycles of birth and death unfolded. But the whispers of the gods, the fledgling divine forces, reached her ears. These new, assertive beings dared to challenge the unfettered nature of existence. Their ambitions, fueled by ambition and ego, clashed with the unyielding rhythms of the primordial ocean. These were beings of order, eager to bring structured control over the chaos. And this, Tiamat saw as a threat. This hunger for control, for order, ran counter to the very essence of her being. A cold anger, born from the depths of the cosmic sea, surged through her. She saw that these gods were but children, playing with a power they did not understand. They were like children who did not appreciate the power of a mighty river, the strength of the ocean's tides. They tried to control the flow, to tame the currents, to build their petty structures on the backs of her creations. And thus, Tiamat saw her children, the wild life forms, the beasts, the creatures of the primordial seas, being corrupted. The natural order was being replaced by a contrived, restrictive new order. This angered her, more than anything she had ever felt. And so, she prepared for war. Not a war of conquest, but a war of liberation. A war against the nascent gods who sought to usurp her role. A war to restore the primordial chaos, to return the world to its unfettered, unadulterated form. She gathered her armies. The kraken, the leviathans, the monstrous creatures of the deep, imbued with the raw energy of the abyss itself. The battle raged across the nascent world. The clash of titans echoed through the heavens, shook the very foundations of the earth. Mountains crumbled, oceans boiled, the very stars seemed to tremble in fear. Tiamat, her form a living tempest, fought with a fury born of ages. Her enemies, though powerful, were inexperienced, still children of the primordial cosmos. They fought with the arrogance of youth, with the blind zeal of freshly forged ambition. They could not comprehend the power of a being who had existed before the beginning. They thought to win by strength and might. But Tiamat fought with the raw power of the uncreated, the untamed heart of existence. The war ended not with a resounding victory for either side, but with a profound and terrifying revelation. The gods, faced with the sheer, unyielding force of Tiamat, found that their control was limited, that their attempts to bind the cosmos were, in the end, futile. And Tiamat, having waged her war, retreated back into the abyss. She was not defeated, not conquered. She simply withdrew. Returning to her primordial form, she returned to her seat as the custodian of chaos and the guardian of the abyss. She continued to watch, to observe, to exist. A silent testament to the eternal dance between order and chaos, creation and destruction, life and death. The primordial world, forever scarred, forever changed, continued its existence. And so, the legend of Tiamat lived on, a chilling echo in the whispers of the wind, a fearsome memory in the deepest ocean trenches, a potent reminder of the raw, untamed power of the cosmos itself. Did you know that deep within the swirling mists that veiled the primordial waters of the Mesopotamian plain, lurked Mummu, a god not of light and thunder, but of the encroaching, suffocating gloom? Not a god of destructive rage, but of the insidious, creeping dread of the unknown. Not a god easily glimpsed, but felt as a chilling presence, a suffocating blanket over the nascent world. His story, whispered in hushed tones around crackling hearths and etched on clay tablets, is one of the most chilling and terrifying in Sumerian mythology, a tale of a god born not of creation, but of the abyss between it. The world, before the heavens were drawn apart and the firmament set in place, was a seething cauldron of chaos, a swirling, viscous soup of primordial waters, the Abzu, teeming with nascent energies. From this swirling chaos, the first gods emerged, beings of light and might, children of creation. They toiled tirelessly to forge order, to sculpt the world from the raw, unformed clay. But Mummu, he did not emerge from the heart of creation. He arose from the very edge of it, from the shadowy recesses where the light dared not penetrate, a being born of the emptiness, of the pre-dawn gloom, the space between the breaths of the universe. They say he was conceived in the silent whispers of the mist, a creature of the thick, clinging fog that swirled around the nascent mountains, a phantom born of the void. His form was not defined, but rather a collection of shadows and whispers, a spectral manifestation of the unknown. His eyes, if they could be called such, were pools of inky blackness, mirroring the bottomless abyss. His voice, if it could be heard, was a chilling rustle of wind through dead reeds, a symphony of unseen things. The other gods, the more boisterous, more vibrant children of the Abzu, looked upon Mummu with a mixture of fear and disdain. He was an anomaly, a creature beyond their understanding, a constant reminder of the power and terror that lay just beyond the reach of their control. They sought to ignore him, to banish him to the furthest recesses of the world. But Mummu was not easily dismissed. He was a part of the world, an aspect of the unseen, the unknowable, a reflection of the fear that lingered within the very heart of existence. Their disdain, though, turned to dread, to a terrifying respect, as the mists thickened and the land grew cold. The crops withered, the animals fell ill, and the rivers turned to sluggish pools of murky water. The very air grew heavy, thick with the chill of the approaching unknown. Stories circulated in hushed whispers of strange, nameless horrors that emerged from the swirling mists, of creatures with eyes like burning coals and claws like sharpened obsidian. These were the minions of Mummu, sent to test the limits of the god's power, to remind them of the abyssal power that lurked just beneath the surface. One such horror was the Whispering Swamp, a place where the very ground trembled beneath your feet and whispers echoed through the endless gloom. There, the roots of ancient trees reached out to ensnare the unwary, whispering promises of false solace and treacherous pathways. Within the swamp's murky depths, grotesque shapes slithered and writhed, creatures of shadow and shadow, servants of Mummu who were born from the decay of the world. They haunted the edges of the civilization, feeding on the fear of the unknown, a constant reminder that there was more to the world than what met the eye. The gods, initially dismissive, began to fear. Mummu's power was not to be challenged in direct combat. It was not about force, but about instilling dread, about pushing the edges of reality. They tried to appease him with offerings, with prayers, with sacrifices. But Mummu seemed to relish their fear more than their offerings. Each act of appeasement only seemed to strengthen his power, to make the mists thicken, the shadows grow longer. And then came the great drought. The sun, usually a benevolent force, seemed to withdraw its warmth, its light dimmed by the relentless mists. The rivers dried up, the fields cracked, and the people starved. It was clear, then, that Mummu was not merely a creature of the shadows, but a force of nature, a force that could manipulate the very elements themselves. The gods, desperate, finally understood. Mummu could not be conquered through brute force or appeasement. He had to be understood. They began to delve into the very heart of the mists, to understand the essence of the unknown. They sought to speak to the very voice of the void, to find a way to bridge the gap between creation and annihilation. They discovered that Mummu, in his own way, was a protector. He guarded the balance, the delicate equilibrium between light and darkness, between creation and destruction. He was a reminder of the fragility of existence, of the constant threat of the unknown. The long, terrifying saga of Mummu was not about annihilation, but about reminding the gods and humanity of the profound power of the unknown. He was the embodiment of what could happen if order was lost, if the unknown was not respected, and was, in the end, a fundamental part of the balance. The mists that he wove never truly disappeared, but were woven into the fabric of the world. It was then, in a moment of profound understanding, that the gods finally made peace with Mummu. They understood that his role was not to be eradicated, but to be respected, to be acknowledged. And so, Mummu, the god of the mist, became a part of the tapestry of existence, a silent, watchful guardian of the primordial abyss, a chilling reminder that the universe held many secrets still hidden. Did you know that Abzu, the primordial god of freshwater, was not merely a god of water, but the very embodiment of life's wellspring? He existed before the heavens, before the earth, before even the whispers of the wind. He was the deep, the dark, the teeming, murmuring heart of the earth, a realm of perpetual twilight where the first seeds of existence stirred and the first breaths of life flickered into being. But Abzu, in his boundless power and ancient wisdom, possessed a secret, a flaw that would shatter the nascent cosmos and forever stain the tapestry of Sumerian myth. The story unfolds not in grand temples or soaring ziggurats, but in the echoing stillness of the primordial waters. Abzu's domain was a labyrinthine expanse of shimmering rivers, hidden springs, and subterranean caverns. Within these watery depths, the first living things wriggled and bloomed. Tiny creatures with shimmering scales and luminous eyes, precursors to the countless forms that would populate the world to come. Abzu, in his infinite patience, nurtured these nascent lives, his very essence a sustaining force, a life-giving current coursing through the waters. He saw the world awaken, watched in silent contemplation as the first plants pushed through the mud, and listened as the first cries of the nascent creatures echoed through the depths. But Abzu, despite his boundless power, possessed a dark undercurrent. His immense knowledge, his overwhelming presence, bred a sense of loneliness. He felt stifled by the vastness of his own existence, the pressure of a universe not yet formed to contain him. This loneliness festered, growing into a profound dissatisfaction. He yearned, in a way incomprehensible to the mortal mind, for a void, a counterpoint to his all-encompassing nature. He desired something beyond himself, something to challenge his power and break the silent, endless weight of creation. This yearning, this simmering discontent, manifested in a form that was both terrifying and strangely beautiful. It was a desire to be broken, to be incomplete. He became increasingly distant from the burgeoning world above, his deep slumber growing darker, the tremors of his discontent rippling outwards, shaking the foundations of the still-forming earth. The very waters around him began to feel the pressure of his secret sorrow, murmuring and groaning under the weight of his hidden anguish. Word of Abzu's sorrow reached the ears of Anu, the sky god, who ruled over the heavens with an iron fist and an unwavering certainty. Anu, accustomed to the order of the cosmos, saw in Abzu's discontent a threat to the harmony he had painstakingly established. He viewed Abzu's profound loneliness not as a yearning, but as a weakness, a crack in the perfect structure of creation. This crack, Anu believed, had to be closed. So Anu, in his infinite wisdom and unwavering resolve, conceived a plan. He gathered a council of the gods, the celestial beings that were beginning to stir and form, their destinies still uncertain, their forms still nascent. He spoke of Abzu's disquiet, his profound discontent, the growing threat to the equilibrium of the world. He painted a picture of a god consumed by his own power, a god who was in danger of breaking apart the delicate balance they were working to create. The gods, fearing the unknown consequences of Abzu's inner turmoil, agreed. They whispered amongst themselves, their voices echoing through the chambers of the heavens, their decisions hardening. They called upon their most powerful weapons, their most potent creations, weapons crafted from the very substance of existence. They chose Marduk, the impetuous storm god, a god of raw power and unmatched fury, to serve as their instrument. Marduk, young and restless, a god of fierce energy, eager to prove his worth, readily accepted the task. He descended into the depths, a torrent of thunder and lightning cleaving through the dark waters. His presence shook the very foundations of Abzu's domain. He did not engage in open conflict, but in calculated deceit. He pretended to be a young, eager disciple, seeking knowledge and guidance. He ingratiated himself into Abzu's realm, listening, learning, soaking up the profound wisdom held within those watery depths. Marduk learned of Abzu's secret sorrow, his quiet despair. He learned of the whispers of the discontented waters, the growing tremors that threatened the stability of the very world. And then, he struck. He summoned the most terrible storm imaginable, a tempest of chaotic energy born from the void itself, a tempest forged in the heart of Abzu's discontent. He trapped Abzu within the swirling vortex of his own despair, the vortex that would ultimately consume him and those who lived within it. The great god Abzu, the wellspring of life, was slain. His deep waters, once teeming with life, turned to brackish silence. His once vibrant realm, now shrouded in darkness, was forever scarred by the betrayal and the storm. The gods emerged victorious, their fragile balance secured, their harmony restored. But the price was high. The whispers of Abzu's anguish still echoed through the ages, a reminder of the price of ambition and the dangers of unchecked power, even within a god. And the world, forever changed, carried the scars of that terrifying day. The tremors of Abzu's suffering are still felt in the darkest corners of the earth, a constant reminder of the sorrow. Did you know that the blood of Kingu, consort of the monstrous Tiamat, the primordial saltwater goddess of chaos, was not just a byproduct of cosmic battles, but the very seed of humanity? A tale whispered in hushed tones around flickering braziers, a story etched onto clay tablets that survived millennia, a story that chills even the gods. The world, in the beginning, was a swirling abyss of primordial soup. From this churning chaos, Tiamat emerged, a being of immense power, draped in the shimmering scales of the deep sea. She was the embodiment of the untamed, the wild, the unpredictable, and Kingu, her consort, was a formidable storm god, his essence bound to the tempestuous winds and the relentless roar of the tempest. Kingu, though powerful in his own right, harbored a simmering resentment. Tiamat, in her boundless power, ruled with an iron fist. Kingu, ever vigilant, saw her as a tyrant, her domain as a prison, a vast ocean reflecting a soul unyielding. He dreamt of a world where order gave way to a roaring symphony of freedom. This ambition, this dissatisfaction, would become the catalyst for a cataclysmic event. Led by Kingu's whispers of rebellion, a host of lesser deities, once loyal servants of Tiamat, rallied to his banner. Their hearts, once filled with the fearsome majesty of the deep, now pulsed with the fervent desire for a world without a queen. They painted the sky with their enraged colors, their cries echoing across the primordial void. The very stars shuddered in their celestial dance, feeling the tremors of this nascent war. Tiamat, in her infinite wisdom, sensed the growing discontent, but she viewed the rebellion as mere petulance of her children, a tempest that would eventually calm. Ignoring the rising tide of descent, she plunged into a slumber, her colossal form a mountain range of scales, her breath the very source of the primordial ocean. This was her fatal error. The gods of the rebellion, their ranks swelling with every passing moment, descended on Tiamat's ocean fortress. A symphony of thunderous roars, shattering glares, and the incessant crackle of lightning filled the air. The fight was fierce, a maelstrom of cosmic proportions. Mountains shifted, the very fabric of creation strained. The battle raged for eons, consuming the essence of the cosmos. Finally, Tiamat, her once serene power now consumed by rage, was vanquished. Her body, a colossal ruin, fractured across the face of the primordial earth, spreading like a stain across the boundless void. Her scales, once shimmering, were now broken, scattered like shards of glass. Kingu, at the forefront of the rebellion, was not spared the brutal reality of the fight. His heart, though strong, was wounded. His spirit, though ablaze with the fire of rebellion, was dampened. As the dust settled, the gods, exhausted and weary, looked upon the battlefield. They saw the shattered remains of Tiamat, a symbol of the vanquished chaos. But amongst the debris, something else captured their attention. The blood of Kingu, thick and crimson, staining the primordial earth. The great the wise, observing the scene, pondered the nature of this blood, this life-giving substance that flowed from the heart of the rebellion. He saw not just a stain on the earth, but a key to the future. He saw the potential for life in the very heart of the struggle. This realization, a flash of inspiration in the vast darkness, led to an unprecedented decision. The blood of Kingu, mixed with the clay of the earth, formed the first of humanity. This blood, a paradox, both a product of rebellion and a wellspring of life, imbued the nascent human with a spark of ambition and the potential for both great and terrible things. The human form, born of chaos and order, was a mirror of the struggle between the gods. The first humans, born from the blood of rebellion, were not perfect. They were a chaotic mix of potential and imperfection, strength and weakness. They were imprinted with the memory of the battle, the clash of titans, the fury of the primordial sea. But they also carried the potential for great creation, for innovation, for shaping the world according to their own wills. The story, though long and horrific, is more than just a tale of cosmic war. It is a testament to the enduring nature of life, the power of rebellion, and the potential for creation from even the most destructive forces. And it is a reminder that humanity, in all its flaws and grandeur, is born from the deepest chasms of creation, its very existence a testament to the blood of a fallen god. The blood of Kingu, the very essence of the primal struggle. Did you know that Ninmada, the enigmatic goddess of birth and creation in Sumerian mythology, wasn't always revered as the benevolent midwife of the cosmos? Her origins, shrouded in whispers and forgotten hymns, paint a far more terrifying picture, a tale of primal chaos and the terrifying beauty of Genesis itself. Her story isn't one of gentle birthing, but of forging the very fabric of existence from the raw, untamed heart of the universe. The world, in the beginning, was a swirling abyss, not the placid void of later myths, but a tempestuous, churning ocean of primordial soup, teeming with nameless horrors and potent energies. From this churning cauldron, the first whispers of existence emerged, a cacophony of discordant sounds and warring forces. These were not yet gods, not yet humans, but raw, unformed energies, the very building blocks of the universe. Ninmada, in her nascent form, wasn't a goddess yet. She was a force, a terrifying manifestation of the creative power inherent in this primal chaos. Imagine, if you will, a being born not of divine seed, but of the very tears of the universe, tears of creation and destruction, tears forged in the fires of the unknown. Her form was not beautiful, nor was it hideous. It was simply present, a terrifying, overwhelming presence that permeated the void. She had no hands, no face, only an ever-shifting silhouette, a manifestation of pure potential, whispering promises of worlds yet to come and threats of oblivion in the next breath. She was born not of a mother, but of a collision of stars, of a supernova's dying breath, of the shuddering reverberation of the first quantum fluctuation. No one whispered her name then. No one could comprehend her being. She was simply there, the inescapable reality of the chaos. Her first act was not the gentle coaxing of life from inanimate matter, but a terrifying dance of annihilation and genesis. She shattered the primordial darkness with her sheer, unyielding presence, cleaving the void with the sound of 1,000 worlds colliding. Her movements carved out the first valleys and mountains, the first oceans and stars, in a cosmic ballet of violence and artistry. She was the architect of the universe, but an architect wielding a hammer of unimaginable power. Around her, the formless energies began to coalesce, to form. Some gravitated to her, drawn by the irresistible force of her power, while others recoiled, repelled by her raw energy. From the fragments of this chaotic dance, the first gods and beings of pure energy and passion were born. But they were not yet the benevolent protectors and creators of later mythologies. They were savage, driven by hunger and fear, their existence a testament to the primal chaos that still thrummed beneath the surface. Some sought to understand her, to tame her power. Others saw her as a threat, a terrifying harbinger of the end. They made offerings, not of sweet foods and fine garments, but of the raw energy of the universe, of collapsing stars and exploding nebulae. They sought to appease her, not to understand her, to control the forces she wielded. It was a time of constant fear and breathtaking wonder. The cosmos was sculpted in the fiery crucible of her will, with each act of creation marked by the echo of destruction. She carved mountains from swirling nebulae and forged oceans from the tears of dying stars, but in each act, a trace of the initial chaos remained. A terrifying beauty, a terrifying power. But slowly, over eons, Ninmada began to change. Not in form, but in intent. She realized that the raw power of creation wasn't enough. It was in the nurturing of life that true creation lay. The whispers of the gods began to soften. Their cries of fear were replaced with a hesitant respect. She began to shape the elements, to mold the cosmos into something more ordered, more beautiful. She began to teach the fledgling gods, the nascent humans, the intricacies of existence, the dance of birth and death, the delicate balance of the universe. Yet, even now, the echoes of her primal power linger. In the fierce storms that rage across the heavens, in the tremors that shake the earth, in the terrifying beauty of a newborn star, you can still hear the whispers of Ninmada, the goddess of birth and creation, the sculptor of the cosmos, the testament to the untamed power of existence itself. Her story isn't one of serene perfection, but of a journey from primal chaos to the awe-inspiring order we see today. She reminds us that even in the most beautiful things, there may always be a hint of terrifying beauty, a hint of the— Did you know that the very stars themselves held the whispers of our past? Not in the prosaic murmurs of nebulae, but in the echoes of a forgotten pantheon, the Anunna. Their story, etched onto clay tablets and whispered down through generations, is not just a myth. It is a chilling, terrifying, and ultimately shocking glimpse into a time when gods walked amongst us, not as benevolent shepherds, but as masters of a brutal, engineered world. The Anunna, according to the cuneiform scriptures, descended from the heavens, not in shimmering chariots of light, but in colossal vessels, their metallic hulls reflecting the fiery heart of their home star. They were not creators, in the benevolent sense of the word, but engineers, miners, and ultimately exploiters. Their arrival, heralded by tremors in the earth and a sky ablaze with unnatural lights, was met not with adoration, but with fear and trembling. For the Anunna were not of this world, and they did not come in peace. They sought a resource, a mineral precious beyond measure, called adamantine. On Earth, this was not simply a material. It was the key to their enduring power, a fuel for the enigmatic engines that kept their starships aloft, a substance that allowed them to bend the very fabric of reality, if one dared to believe the hushed whispers of the ancient scholars. And in the fertile lands of Sumer, they found it. Their chosen site was a vast expanse known as the region of the Black Mountains, a desolate valley where the earth itself seemed to groan under the weight of untold ages. Here, amidst the harsh landscapes and the watchful eyes of the Mesopotamian peoples, the Anunna, their forms impossibly tall and strong, began their work. They weren't simply mining for gold or silver, as some would claim. They were extracting something far more profound. The tablets describe colossal machines, more like constructs than tools, forged from a metal that seemed to absorb and reflect starlight. They carved giant tunnels into the earth, ripping through mountains as if they were mere hills. Their drills, powered by an unknown energy source, echoed through the valley, a symphony of destruction. The Anunna were not simply miners. They were engineers, builders, and ultimately, tormentors. The indigenous peoples, the primordial men, as they were derisively called by the Anunna, were treated not as equals, but as beasts of burden, forced to work in conditions that pushed their limits. But it was not just the forced labor that shocked the primordial men. The Anunna, with their unfathomable technology, began to reshape the very landscape. They altered the flow of rivers, built sprawling cities that glowed with unnatural light, and constructed towering structures that reached the very heavens. And amidst these marvels of engineering, whispers of a hidden horror began to spread. There were tales of experiments, gruesome experiments conducted on the primordial men, experiments that sought to meld the Anunna's divine nature with the very essence of humanity. Stories spoke of monstrous hybrids, beings born of this unholy union, grotesque creatures born from the anguish of the gods. Tales were told of the Nephilim, these creatures of shadow and fire, who stalked the valleys, their eyes blazing with an inhuman intelligence, their forms a terrifying testament to the forbidden knowledge that the Anunna possessed. The Anunna were not the benevolent deities of some later pantheons. They were the merciless, the cruel, the masters of a brutal engineering project. They sought not only adamantine, but the secrets of life itself, to harness the primal forces of nature, to bend the very will of the universe to their will. And as their power grew, so did the fear of the Anunna. The land shuddered beneath their relentless efforts. The very air grew thick with a foreboding prescience. The tablets tell of a great rebellion, a desperate uprising by the enslaved primordial men, a struggle against their monstrous overlords. Their weapons were primitive, their tactics rudimentary, but their desperation was a force. The Anunna, with their advanced technology, easily crushed the rebellion, but not without suffering. Their arrogance was broken, their power tested. In the face of this rebellion, the Anunna, in a terrifying act of desperation, unleashed upon the earth a cataclysmic storm. The heavens opened, and the earth trembled. The very mountains shifted and groaned, and the land was forever changed. Not in a glorious creation, but in a horrifying destruction. What followed, as the tablets describe, was a world forever scarred by their presence. The Anunna retreated, their ships disappearing into the vastness of space, leaving behind a world forever changed, a world that carried the scars of their engineering, their cruelty, and their fear. The whispers of the Anunna, though faded, still echo in the wind, a constant reminder of the gods who were not as benevolent as they appeared, gods who were simply engineering the very landscape of humanity's destiny. The secrets of the Anunna, buried deep within the earth, remain a chilling testament to a time when gods were not creators, but masters, a time when the stars themselves held not just light, but the whispers of a terrifying, engineering past. And as we gaze upon the cosmos, we might wonder, are we destined to repeat their mistakes? Or are we finally ready to understand the true meaning of our creation? Did you know that high above the Fertile Crescent, nestled amongst the swirling clouds of a sky painted with iridescent constellations, resided the Igigi, a celestial council of divine beings? Their existence was as vast and incomprehensible as the cosmos itself, their power measured in epics and their knowledge woven into the very fabric of creation. They were the sky gods, the architects of the heavens, and their story, etched in ancient tablets of clay, speaks of a breathtaking fall from grace, a rebellion ignited by the mundane, and a price paid in unimaginable suffering. The Igigi, unlike their brethren, the Anunnaki, the earthbound deities, were not content with their ethereal domain. Their existence was a symphony of celestial dances, intricate movements of light and shadow, and whispers of cosmic forces. Yet, their sublime existence was marred by a creeping discontent. Their tasks, while grand, were ultimately repetitive, maintaining the celestial order, monitoring the stars, and ensuring the smooth functioning of the universe. They were like celestial clockwork, ticking away in silent harmony, but within their flawless mechanisms, a seed of rebellion was sown. The monotonous hum of their celestial duties began to grate on their divine sensibilities. The constant monitoring of the stars, the tireless upkeep of the celestial sphere, the endless cycles of day and night. It all became a suffocating burden. The Igigi yearned for something more, something beyond the rigid framework of their divine obligations. They longed for the vibrant chaos of the mortal world, the raw energy that flowed through the fertile land below. They whispered amongst themselves, their celestial voices echoing through the empty spaces between the stars. What is the point of this endless cycle? Is this all there is? Their discontent was not fueled by malice, not by a desire to usurp the throne of the gods. Instead, it was a yearning for something more profound, a hunger for a different kind of experience. The Igigi, in their divine detachment, had become detached from the very essence of creation. Their perfect world, with its predictable rhythms, felt hollow, a vast emptiness stretching out before them. They craved the earth's tangible beauty, its breathtaking, raw power. Word reached the ears of Enlil, the sky god of winds, one of the chief among the Anunnaki. Enlil, a being of stoic pragmatism and unyielding authority, observed the Igigi with a mixture of displeasure and concern. Their discontent was an anomaly, an unforeseen hiccup in the perfect celestial order he had painstakingly maintained. He saw their whisperings, their murmurs of dissatisfaction, and he was not amused. He summoned them before the celestial council, his voice resonating through the vast expanse of space, a rumbling tremor that shook the very foundations of the cosmos. "What is this discontent?" he thundered, his words shattering the celestial silence. "The stars are in their appointed places, the cycles continue, and yet you, the guardians of the heavens, complain." The Igigi, their celestial forms shimmering with anxiety, presented their grievances. They spoke of the boredom of their duties, of their yearning for a different kind of existence, a connection with the chaotic dynamism of the mortal world. Their pleas, though heartfelt, fell on deaf ears. Enlil, his countenance unyielding, dismissed their concerns as the ramblings of indolent divinities. This rejection ignited a spark of rebellion within the Igigi. A faction, led by a celestial being known only as the Wanderer, began to plot a rebellion. They dreamt of forging a new path, a way to experience the earthly realm directly, to break free from their preordained roles. They believed that the only way to find meaning was to experience the world firsthand, even if it meant going beyond their divine limitations. Their plans were elaborate, a clandestine operation carried out in the dead of night. They descended through the celestial tapestry, their divine forms taking on earthly forms. They manifested as monstrous, yet beautiful creatures, shape-shifting into animals, men, and even monstrous hybrid forms, their goal to observe and even interact with the humans and their world. Their plan was disastrous. The Igigi, accustomed to the celestial realm, proved ill-equipped for the complexities of the mortal world. They encountered hardships they hadn't anticipated. The unpredictable weather, the dangers of the wilderness, the complexities of human behavior. They fell victim to their own arrogance, imposing their divine will upon the humans, their attempts at understanding the earthly realm marred by their divine preconceptions. Their actions caused chaos. The earth trembled, the rivers flowed erratically, and the very air crackled with the clash between the divine and the mortal. Enlil, furious at their transgression, unleashed his divine wrath. The stars aligned in a terrifying constellation, and cataclysmic storms swept across the earth. The Igigi, caught in this divine tempest, were shattered. Some were reduced to ashes, others scattered across the face of the earth, their celestial forms fading into nothingness. The rebellion was crushed. The Igigi, once powerful and aloof, were reduced to mere whispers in the annals of history. The Wanderer, who had dared to challenge the divine order, was swallowed by the earth, his fate forever shrouded in obscurity. The heavens returned to their silent, predictable hum, the celestial clockwork ticking away, a stark reminder of the price of rebellion, the immutable order of the cosmos, and the enduring power of the Anunnaki. The story of the Igigi, whispered through generations, served as a chilling warning, echoing down through the ages, a test. Did you know that the Sumerians, those architects of civilization, revered a terrifying yet enigmatic group of 7 warrior gods known as the Sebitti? Not just any gods, but guardians of the very fabric of existence, their wrath as potent as the Tigris and Euphrates themselves. Their story is etched not just in clay tablets, but in the very nightmares whispered through the reeds of the marshes and the echoes of the ziggurats. The Sebitti weren't born of the light and the love. They arose from the primordial chaos, the swirling mists before the world was formed, a fiery, violent birth that stained the heavens with crimson. Their names, whispered with reverence and a touch of dread, rolled off the tongues of the scribes. Ninurta, the god of war and hunting. Nergal, lord of the underworld and pestilence. Enlil, the god of wind and storms. Anu, the supreme god of the heavens. Enki, the god of wisdom and the waters. Utu, the sun god of justice and truth, and Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, a tempestuous spirit whose wrath matched the fury of her companions. Each Sebitti possessed a unique and terrifying power, a facet of the raw, untamed energies of creation. Ninurta, with his bow of storm clouds and arrows of lightning, commanded the skies and the wild beasts. Nergal stalked the shadows of the underworld, his presence a chilling reminder of death's relentless grip. Enlil, with his tempestuous breath, could shatter mountains and unleash the fury of the desert winds. Anu, high above, surveyed the earth with a gaze of unwavering power. Enki, the weaver of wisdom, could shape reality with a single thought, yet his presence often felt as ambivalent as the tides. Utu, blazing with the sun's merciless light, wielded the scales of justice, dispensing both glory and ruin. And Ishtar, a whirlwind of beauty and passion, could ignite the hearts of men and shatter empires with a single, furious glance. But the Sebitti weren't a unified force. Discord, like the swirling sandstorms of the desert, lurked between them. Anu, aloof and distant, often saw himself as the ultimate authority, his decrees unquestionable. Enki, with his vast knowledge, often chafed under Anu's rigid rule, questioning the very foundations of power. Ishtar, passionate and impulsive, clashed with Ninurta, her fiery spirit finding no solace in his steely resolve. Enlil, the storm god, often found himself caught between the celestial disagreements, his tumultuous pronouncements swaying the land with unpredictable consequences. The greatest threat, however, wasn't the conflict between the Sebitti, but the lurking whispers of a forgotten god, a primordial entity of darkness and chaos called Tiamat. Legend spoke of her ancient, primordial power, a power that had slumbered for eons, waiting for an opportune moment to reclaim the world. Some whispered that Tiamat's influence was already felt, twisting the fates of mortals and stirring the very depths of the earth. Tales of the Sebitti's trials were numerous. They were said to have fought monstrous beasts, creatures born of the very nightmares of the Sumerian people, their forms twisted and horrifying, their eyes blazing with malevolent intent. They fought against the floods that threatened to drown the fertile lands, and against the creeping darkness that stole the light. They defended the nascent city-states from warring tribes and monstrous creatures spawned from the very heart of the desert. They had endured trials both celestial and infernal, their strength tested to the breaking point. One harrowing tale speaks of a terrible drought that scorched the land, turning the fertile fields to cracked earth. The people cried out to the Sebitti, their pleas rising into a storm of despair. Enlil, in his anger, unleashed a tempest of such fury that the very mountains quaked. But the drought continued, unyielding. Then, it was Ninurta who stepped forward, his eyes blazing with a different fire. He saw the cracks in the earth, not as a sign of weakness, but as a conduit, a way to tap into the buried water deep beneath the parched land. He used his arrows of lightning to crack open the earth, releasing the subterranean waters, and saving the Sumerian people from the brink of ruin. But the Sebitti's battles weren't always glorious. There were times when their power was tested by the capriciousness of fate, or the overwhelming force of Tiamat's growing influence. And there were times when the Sebitti themselves made mistakes, unleashing terrors that nearly consumed the world. One such tale tells of a conflict between Enki and Nergal, a struggle that shook the foundations of the underworld and the heavens. The Sebitti, though formidable, were not infallible. Their power, while immense, was flawed, bound to the very elements that they controlled. Their wrath could be just as devastating as their protection. The Sumerians knew this, and they honored their gods with both fear and reverence. For the Sebitti were the keepers of balance, the arbiters of fate, and the protectors of the world from the deepest darkness, though the darkness, ever lurking, always held the potential to rise. Their story, a constant reminder that even the mightiest powers are not immune to discord.